I mean, I wasn't expecting after the previous chapter and how current events are that we are going to have a just pretty much straight out flashback chapter. I mean, this chapter was really just a flashback of how things are going, and well, not even how things are going. Pretty much from Yami's perspective about like his grasp on how things are going, but also a big flashback over Yami meeting the Black Bulls. It seems like Yami's whole setup with the like pretty much becoming a Magic Knight, meeting a bunch of other important characters, and I liked it. I definitely enjoyed it because obviously it gives insight to Yami's character. It definitely adds a good chunk to what we actually know about how he thinks and how he feels about everything. Because like we know Yami, obviously he's been here since like very early in the series, but we don't get like a ton of insight into Yami's actual response and feelings towards like more plot aligned events. Because we had stuff set up for Julius, but obviously the Julius plot twist pretty much said no to that. But like this is where we're getting a different side of Yami instead. The flashback, I did have some really interesting information in it, and it did provide a little bit of evidence for a claim, towards Morris. But there's like a part where Yami, he's got his grimoire, and there's people like weeded out that he's got dark magic, and they're like, saying mean stuff to him, just kind of like saying a lot of negative things about him and his magic. Also like saying how like the foreigners are really ominous beings. Come on, there's some discrimination, like above not just magic discrimination. But then he meets Julius. Obviously, we know Julius. Julius was super hyped about seeing his magic. That's when he, after that, he ends up, enjoying the squad. He meets Morgan and Noct. Morgan's Morgan actually part of it. Noct just is kind of around. I do really like early Noct's, well, I guess younger Noct's design with like the cool white hair and then like the black outfit. I think it looks a little bit more. It's like a little bit cooler, whereas like his current one is a little bit more sleek because it all kind of blends. And then you see like him meeting Jack, him meeting Nozel, Fuego, Goldray. You got Owen and Marileona, Charlotte. There was one on William, and I wasn't really gonna like say anything about William, because William, even though I don't like him, he hasn't been focused on like current events. It's been way more on Yami. When he's saying he's gonna keep working to protect the country together, absolute cap. Like The thing about William that upsets me more, I think, than him being a traitor is how he plays it off like he's some big protector of the kingdom and like he's for the kingdom, but he was willing to risk the kingdom and everybody in it for Patri and completely break his oath about being a Magic Knight and protecting the kingdom. And this is just one of those parts where it adds an extra punch to that, because it's just like, dude, stop talking. Because at this point you were conniving and doing evil shit. So you were definitely a bad guy when you were saying this. But there's the points where you get a little bit more context between like him and Morgan, where Morgan wanted him to become a captain and like lead his own brigade, but Yami's like, oh no, you should do that. You could be a better leader than me. And then it's obviously Morgan dying, and Yami talking to Noct and saying how he's pretty much going to form his own brigade. And the way that he puts it is, is very accurate. He wants to have one on people who, when he says destiny didn't choose, I guess that kind of depends, because like people being arcane, the people with like more special magic and stuff, that one's obviously not going to count to him, but he didn't say one thing. And he's like talking about like people not getting chained down, people who are overweighted by their crimes, like stuff like that. Very, obviously a good displaying of like a verbal description of the Black Bulls, and he just wants them to give them a place so they can, do what they're best at and go crazy doing so. And we get this really nice spread of him meeting all the Black Bulls. Now we've seen most of these. I can't remember if we saw his meeting in Finral. That might have been in the anime. I don't remember that one entirely. We know stuff obviously like Zora, Asta, Sekre, Noel, Henry. The one that actually was on here that I'm a little, I wouldn't say annoyed, but I wish we saw it, was Gordon, because I really liked I think I'd really like to hear the dialogue between him and Gordon, as Gordon's just kind of like sitting off by himself and Yami's just hanging out fishing and seeing how that goes. I would imagine somewhat of a similar kind of conversation between him and Gray, of these loners who are kind of off on their own, not very good being around people. But I think Gordon's would have been a little bit more interesting, Because Gray has the ability to hide herself, whereas Gordon doesn't. And Gordon, on top of that, he's very, like, visually he looks a little strange, obviously, with like the black markings on his eyes and lips. He just stands out. He's not a bad guy, but due to obviously like how, you know, his personality, his behavior, and how people I think would regularly perceive him, he would have trouble kind of just communicating on top of everything else that is involved. Like way more variables, I think, of a problem that would lead to a interesting confrontation between him and Yami. Where I think with Gray, it would really just depend on Gray's mentality into whatever form she's in, and on top of that, just Yami's initial approach. I think it would be way more kind of chill rather than Gordon, where I think Gordon would be, I think it'd be way more of like trying to allure out like a hot, like a defensive and feral animal, almost kind of like, you know, some cat on the street. Not the same thing, but it's like, you know, it's obviously not. It's afraid of you because it doesn't know you, and it's obviously its own experiences and like the, you know, the stuff around it, not because it knows anything about you. Where it's like, we know that Gordon now is like a really nice dude, and as well as obviously Yami helped kind of like change his standing in life and the people around him, which is really nice. I also really like the background of it. You had like the Black Bull's base, and then like what looks like stars. I wonder if that's supposed to be symbolism for anything, or if it's just something in there. But with that, you have the moment where Yami is taken away by Xenon, and we find out what he said, where he said, you know, live however you want. I thought that was pretty nice when he's saying, like, you know, the one who ended up finding a place to belong might actually have been me. And the way that he says that, obviously, is in reference to him forming a, you know, he formed his own brigade. He formed like people that like him, that he can be around, that he appreciates as well. But the part with Morris is really strange because it just kind of pops up where it's like, it makes this Yami flashback, instead of feeling like a character flashback where it's just kind of like you're just getting some more insight on Yami, it's definitely a death flag kind of scenario where it sets up Yami for like a bigger thing. But it's like, when you find out stuff like this about a character, it depends on the context of like why it's being said, why you're getting this information. This is definitely like a dangerous kind of like one right now. Doesn't instantly mean Yami's dying, but it definitely puts him in a more negative spot. And I know obviously Tabata hasn't really killed off any protagonists yet, but I mean, like, I'll give it the same. I give Black Clover the same level of fairness that I would give any mainstream Battle Shonen series. A lot of the mainstream battle manga don't kill off protagonists very often. They like to build it up instead, so it's like you get a couple major deaths, but they are impactful. They're going to, once one of these characters dies, it's going to change a tone of the manga for a lot of the characters, and then Yami is that character. Like, I know people didn't like that Gaja lived, but I was always like kind of like about it, because it's like, I never would have really felt bad if Gaja died, so it's like, it kind of takes off that death, and then instead gets it prepped to maybe go towards somebody that will actually have more of an impact of where it goes. But then we get like Yami waking up from all the Black Bulls yelling at him, and Morris looking defeated. With the Morris flashback and how the chapter ends, I don't think this is like Morris is done. Whether it's a Morris fake, Morris heals himself, or he does something to kind of get back to his feet. I think that's gonna happen. Like this, maybe this is actually like what if Morris used his modification magic to make it so even if he's knocked out, his magic is still going off. So it's like he can do it unconsciously. You would have to kill him in order to do it. But, well, you know, that's obviously something we're gonna have to wait to chapter 2 to find out. And then you have a part where Yami's obviously saying, you know, you people like me that much, and all the Black Bulls, you know, say that they do love Yami. You know, that's their leader. They obviously appreciate him, and he is a direct individual who has changed their lives and put pretty much all of them onto a better pathway. And you have, again, a really nice moment with Yami, and, you know, saying how it's mutual, he loves him too, and Noct having a nice somber moment with like his devils as he's like looking down at them. Noct is the only one not in the big grouping shouting towards them, but obviously Noct still got his beef with Yami. But at the end of the chapter, we do see what looks like another gate opening, and that's gonna be bad for him. I don't think Morris is done. I don't think this is all over, because again, if Morris is done, the arc's over. The arc's over. They save Yami, they save William, and there's nothing really stopping them from ending it. I do not think this is over, and I really want to see what Tabata has in store, because this, the way that it's formatted, and then obviously the last panel of the chapter, it's set up more to be kind of like this calm before the storm kind of moment, and it's not looking good for Yami. It's really not. Like, Tabata has set him in a spot where he very well could die. And, you know, there's going to be some people that say, like, oh, Tabata's not going to kill him off. You know, that's one of the things. He could or he could not. But, like, from a standpoint of, like, how it's at least looking in the story, it looks like Yami's fucked. So we'll see. We'll see how Yami does that and see what Tabata does with it. It's definitely going to be really nice to see the results of it if it does occur. But anyway, other than that, comment below. Tell me your thoughts with this. I want to see this next devil that comes out, because it definitely is another gate opening. And Lucifaro apparently is coming out, but maybe we could get that other devil on top of that, and you know, whatever the second gate devil is, because it's been a while. The first gate opened what, like 30 something chapters ago, like over half a year ago. So we definitely are due for another one. I mean, other than that, though, comment below, thumbs up the video for the like button, subscribe, and check out my other videos. But in that, I appreciate it. Subscribe. Thank you all for listening. Bye.